organization of this lecture. One can easily argue that we are living through a phase in history that our descendants will call an age of identity. Not only in the Western world, but also across the globe, societies debate what it may mean to be a part of them. For instance, in India, Hindu nationalists debate about that and deny the Muslim minority in the country their status as Indians. In their argument, India is a Hindu nation. Same holds true for many European countries, such as Poland, where the national narrative elevates the Catholic faith as paramount for Polish identity. The ruling party in the country therefore explicitly unwelcomes refugees of Muslim faith, despite the fact that the Roman Pontiff, the head of the Catholic Church, to which allegedly all Poland bows, urged his flock across the old world to take in these refugees as an act of Christian mercy. In the aftermath of 9/11, religion has become the key indicator for identity. But what religion we are talking about? Clearly, it is not about spirituality or charity, what we can see by the Polish example. Religion serves a variety of purposes and has achieved a different set of meanings over the course of human history. The sort of religion that we see at work now, mostly while examining the age of identity, is religion as politics, political religion. There is an interpretation of religion as politics, political religion, in every developed faith that makes it not only an instrument of the ruling class or the governing class, but also for the governed. And it has the goal and the purpose to provide a feeling of belonging and to be at the right place at the right time. The governing and the governed alike therefore seek and embrace narratives that support and hold the convictions of the whole res publica in the grace of stability and order. Wherever you have to sort out things for a community that is bigger than a family, basically, you need this sort of order, some type of order. Order in order to collaborate and secure the survival of the group. Order is established by narratives. These narratives indicate who rightfully asserts the means of enforcing the order. Historian Yuval Harari asserts in his book A Brief History of Mankind that there are two sorts of narratives that cater to that purpose. It's gossip and mythology. Gossip helps us to relate to people in the wider group that we have never seen and met, but we have some slight idea about. My favorite example is Brangelina, like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, who got married and then divorced, they have kids or whatever. And you can talk about Brangelina in India and in Mexico and in Germany, and that's what they mean by a narrative through gossip. Mythology is maybe a bit less exciting, but it's more profound and more deep. Religion, on its end, also provides a sort of gossip and narrative about where we come from and where we go to. And on these narratives, on these two narratives, rests the order that a group, a tribe, a nation established in order to collaborate and to make the whole thing going. And this identity, the narrative creates, while defining the political, the economic, this identity, these narratives, they define as much the political sphere as they do culture and as they do influence economy. And this type of religion, this political religion we talked about, is mutual exclusive. Different religious narratives, different claims of legitimacy. Orient, used as a term for the Arab Muslim world, and Occident, used as a term for Christian Western Europe, clearly are different in the narratives that shape their culture. In the age of identity, where gossip may, Brangelina again, cross the borders of cultural belonging and of identity very easily. As I just said, in India and in Mexico, they know about Brangelina. But this is not true for narratives that are rooted in political religion. Since 9/11, the global dimension of these divergent political religions and their claims of legitimacy has become very obvious. It is mostly Christendom, the Occident, and Islam, the Orient, that are portrayed as the main antagonists in this era of distinction. Samuel Huntington, the author of The Clash of Civilizations, rather drastically described the future encounters between those two major religions, those religious communities, as an enterprise of bloodshed. Of course, Huntington, a political theorist that he was, did not have religion as a natural religion or a spiritual force in mind. He was clearly talking about a political Weltanschauung. And the discrepancy of these different Weltanschauungen, in Huntington's opinion, between Islam and Christianity, Islam and the West, to Huntington, inevitably leads to armed conflict. And as a matter of fact, both Christianity and Islam have taken on different roads when it comes to their narratives. They are theologically and politically mutually exclusive. This antagonism roots back in something that one may call the natural religion, and I will be trying to explain that to you. What we face today between the Orient and the Occident has a pattern that Oxford historian Peter Frankopan, in his recently published book, The Silk Roads, A New History of the World, excavates. Religious practice and belief has been intertwined with political dominion and practice of governance. Frankopan sums this behavior by the rulership up, and I quote, "There were strong incentives for rulers to invest in the right spiritual infrastructure, such as the building of lavish places of worship. This offered a lever over internal control, allowing leaders to form a mutual strengthening relationship with the priesthood who, across all the principal religions, wielded substantial moral authority and political power. This did not mean that rulers were passive, responding to doctrines laid out by an independent class. On the contrary, determined rulers could reinforce their authority and dominance by introducing new religious practices." This is exactly what happened in Europe after Emperor Constantine accepted the Christian faith with his baptism in the year 3312. Not only he ordered the construction of churches and new religious infrastructure, he and his successors would loudly and decisively interfere in the councils of the early church whenever the bishops, to the emperor's taste, fell short in delivering answers to controversial theological questions. The well-being of the res publica, and we still try to figure out what natural religion is, the well-being of the res publica depended on the benediction of the gods. Behind this rather developed thought of public enterprise in the Roman Empire, however, one finds very deeply rooted, like human, we call it natural religion, which is mostly portrayed in today's language as superstition and stuff like that. It embodies archaic forms of belief, trying to win over the favor of higher spirits and gods. And I again quote Frankopan. "The equation was as simple as it was powerful. A society protected and favored by the right gods, or God, thrived. Those promising false idols and empty promises suffered." To refresh our memory, the baptism of Emperor Constantine followed the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. In a dream, the commander-in-chief saw a sign in the sky interpreted as Xi and Rho, which were the first letters of the name Christ, of Jesus Christ, the letters symbolizing the name of Jesus. And a celestial voice predicting to the general, "In hoc signo vinces," in this sign you will conquer. This is natural, superstitious if you want, religion par excellence. It is the root of many things that we today would call political religion. Taking the identity conflict and few notches down from Huntington into our modern era, you see that almost every major country in Europe has taken one step or the other to define what their identity is and what makes, let's say, the Germans German. Religion is hereby a very huge aspect, not the natural religion of Constantine, but the political religion. I give you an example. The concept of German Leitkultur, which means the prevalent culture, operates generously with the idea of the Judeo-Christian heritage that may be the definer of what German culture, moreover the whole architecture of the West, rests upon. This endeavor is, however, clearly not due to the admiration for the indeed rich Jewish culture that Germany once had and Europe once had. In my understanding, it is basically to make the Muslims in the Western diaspora understand that they are not welcome. In many high developed countries, for example in Germany, but also others, where president, chancellor and ministers are sworn into office, they have the optional adamant for this swear to say, "So help me God." Politicians who take the oath of office with the addendum, "So help me God," may utter this for a variety of reasons. For however private the religiosity and spirituality of each and every politician may be, the invocation of God in this context, however, is a public act. And this public act, as much as in other public acts, also like a wedding vow in a church or in a city hall, so argues Italian philosopher Vattimo. He says, whenever we do that, when we invoke a God, when we swear, when we promise, we want to have a third party, an independent party, watching over us and give us their benediction. We want to be somehow, to a slight extent, being out of the context of time and space we just are in. And this is a reason Vattimo would explain why religion still is very vital in the political sphere and context. Having said that, it is clear to me that we have to distinguish between the God of the private and the God of the public realm. The God of the public sphere stands for the beliefs and the convictions of the res publica. The God is meant to protect and bless. What I referred earlier to, like to the Western culture or to the Muslim culture. And this is also why many constitutions, to have a last example, in the Western world, have in their preamble a reference to God. It's called an invocatio Dei in Latin, and it is the God of the framework and identity of this political religion. It's not the God you may believe in on a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning or a Friday afternoon. And let us pause a moment, because we have come up with a few definitions about religion that is out there. Let us pause a moment so that we can fill in the other forms of religion other than the natural religion and the political religion. There is, in my opinion, two more. The third is called, I would call, the established religion, and the last one, the fourth, to me, is mysticism. An established religion, you may call what we see today in Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism. And this is not to derogate, in my opinion, when I say that, other forms of religion that are still out there, like natural religions. It's to me just only a descriptive term. And established religions, they have sacred scripture, they have a doctrine, and they have a pastoral practice. What they offer is a Weltanschauung and also rites of passage, which we know in the Christian framework as baptism, confirmation, the wedding, and the burial. These, as I pointed out earlier, they are mutually exclusive. You are either a Christian or you are Muslim. Mysticism, on the other hand, is totally different from all that I mentioned before. You may read a text by a mystic from Jewish, Muslim, or Christian descent, and you will cover the name of the author. You cannot tell who wrote it, what religion this mystic would have had. It's basically, the common share of these mystics is to define the deity or the god or the goddess for whatever, that described by what they are not, to define and to say that you cannot come up with doctrine and establish religion to understand the mystery of the divine. Political religion, to be back to the topic after this tiny excursion, embraces ruler and ruled, and also in the modern, contemporary context, you have religious narratives that hold societies together. England, for instance, you have in England a strong, long-living narrative of exceptionalism. So England, back in the days, perceived itself as being the successor of the 12 tribes of Israel. So they have also like old songs where they say, the last night of the proms, it's a funny thing they do in England every year. They have one song, it's called Jerusalem, and it ends with the solemn note that oh, if Jerusalem was built in England. And on board of the Mayflower in the year 1620, these ideas of exceptionalism went from the old world to the shores of the new world, which we know today as the United States of America. And also the United States of America have embodied and embraced this sort of language, this political religious language. And I'm sure you have been listening to several American presidents, and if you remember Ronald Reagan, who wanted to make this exceptionalism, revitalize this exceptionalism, and speaking about the United States as the city of the hill, on the hill, it's basically a biblical term and a biblical picture that he has been using. So, now we are at the core why these sort of narratives, deriving from political religion, are why migrants in this context are seen and perceived as dangerous. They do, in the opinion and the eyes of their adversaries, they destabilize the system because they cannot read the inventory that I just laid out to you. They cannot participate in the language of the Bible or in the language of this political religion, in the language that defines rulership and gives legitimacy. In the European context, just to go back to Emperor Constantine, when the Roman Empire declined and the German kings emerged, Charlemagne, Karl the Great, in order to become the emperor of this new established realm, he went to Rome and got consecrated by the Pope, who was been seen and perceived as the last bulwark of the Roman Empire. So, in the idea of the Holy Roman Empire of German nation, the emperors got their authority and their legitimacy through the benediction, and through that they inherited the power of the Roman Caesars. So this goes very, very way back, and not every European could name that. But I'd say, and I would argue, that you see until this very day that people can read this inventory, do understand what it means to talk about the city on the hill. And Muslim immigrants to Europe basically cannot. They do not understand, in the eyes of their opponents, the Occidental framework. So it's all about loyalty that, again, in the eyes of the adversaries, migrants cannot deliver. The idea behind all these narratives of belonging is to boost the own group, us, like a monolith. And in order to create this, there ought to be the others, them. And that and you have to allege that those pose a threat to the well-being of the own groups. In our time, I'll argue, Muslims are in many cases the others, in parts of the Western world, in parts of the Christian world. And as a side note, to illustrate what I mean about this loyalty, back in the days, Emperor Barbarossa, the dude with the red beard, he had, like as a guard, he had Saracen soldiers that would guard him. And they were Muslims. And basically he did that in case he would have a battle with the Pope, the Roman Pontiff. The Pope would excommunicate the guards of the emperor, and they would just obey because the spiritual force in a Christian framework means something. So having a guard of Muslim faith, this would protect the emperor because they were not loyal to the narrative I was just telling to you. So if you look back into history, you find some of these examples, and Barbarossa, that's quite 1,000 years ago. So the narratives of natural religion, of political religion, and of established religion are very much intertwined and interwoven. And I think that's the reason why, when I give lectures like this, and this is rests on a lot of experience, you realize that people do use, from all the three, a tiny bit when they talk about religion. And this is why it gets messy when we try to examine what is going on in the refugee crisis or in the encounter or confrontation between Islam and the West. When you ask, for instance, the question, are Islam and democracy compatible? That's the question, what do you mean? What Islam are you talking about? It's the same about Christianity. Is it what people believe in their religions when they go to service, to church or to mosque? Or is it what political rulership lays out as a narrative, again, of rulership? And you may be seeing that these interwovenness. It's important that we look deeper into the reasons why this may be, because we all use, when we not reflected, religion as a part of all of that. We may not refer to the mystics about when we talk about religion, but we refer to the natural religion, we refer to political religion, and we also refer to established religion. Let me refer to ethnologist David Graeber. He wrote a book in 2011, it was called Net, The First 5,000 Years, and he tried to shed light on the connection between moral and economic behavior. And what he would argue, he would say man always finds itself bound in a variety, in a multitude of relationships and dependencies. And these dependencies release in him a sense of being encumbered in debt. One example, so children will always be indebted to their parents, and they can only make up for that for becoming parents themselves. You cannot just give your parents a check and say, now I make up for you that you gave birth to me, and that you raised me, and that you paid me like being a student at UNAM and then chill around or whatever. No, they have, so you can only make that up through becoming parents yourself. That's what Graeber says. In the bigger context of our existence, it's quite, he says, okay, well, we realize we just have our life, not we only, but our parents and our grandparents. We are part of a bigger whole, the universe, the cosmos, whatever. And he said that invigorates in us a feeling of also happiness, beatitude, but also like of being indebted to whoever we think is responsible for all of that. So, and this is why he said this is when temples came about, and also the economy of religious worship. And I think he makes a good point in putting the finger at the fact that what we see, what we perceive as religious acts come from a very natural religious sort of context for an empirical feeling that then very quickly translates into established religion that then again comes up with narratives. So if you look into the old temples, like also on this continent, but in many other parts of the world, you see that also, or the famous Temple of Jerusalem, you see that repaying your debt to your eternal master or God is also sort of an economy. And this is why these narratives of religious context are intertwined with politics, culture, and religion. Another dude, like his name is Thomas Sedlacek, he wrote a book in also 2011. It's called The Economy of Good and Evil, and he examined another very nice side note that in many languages this religious and economic connotation are mixed into one word. So I think it's the same also in Spanish, like the Biblia, like in the Our Father and the prayer. I don't know how you say that in Spanish, but they are as much the sins as they are the economical debts. So you see that religious inventory is like visible, or you can excavate it in many societal contexts. And I leave that out. I have a quote here by Max Weber, who is with the sociology of religion, wrote like the masterpiece on religion, but I think we're running out of time. But just coming to another point about this us versus them, because this is where all the conflicts of the sorts we discussed today rest upon. In the 70s, the studies of social identity came to a first breakthrough by a dude called Henry Teifel, and he discovered that identity, already in children, is deployed in an us and them routine. So he basically came up with an experiment in which kids were allegedly in a group, and they were like playing against another group. The kid wouldn't know the kids of his group, and he would also not know the other kids. But in the end, when it comes to make the moves in the game, he would always prefer the people of his group, of the us. Even the kids do this already, and that was actually the beginning of social identity theory, and with the striking discovery that us versus them is not deployed onto us by the emperor or by the pope. It's something that may be deeply entrenched in us to make ourselves go. And again, back to Harari and the narratives of gossip and mythology, that seems to go back very far. Let me have a last thought on that. And I take this from the religious philosopher René Girard. He also wrote about this and thought and reflected a lot about this us versus them. And he deployed a theory of the scapegoat. The scapegoat you may also be knowing from the Bible. It's just like gets packed all the sins of the people and then sent into the wilderness to die. And the scapegoat, Girard writes about the scapegoat the following. when human groups divide and become fragmented during a period of malaise and conflict, they may come to a point where they are reconciled again at the expense of a victim. Observers nowadays realize, without difficulty, unless they belong to the persecuting group, that this victim is not really responsible for what he or she is accused of doing. The accusing group, however, views the victim as guilty by virtue of a contention similar to what we find in scapegoat rituals. The member of the group accuse their scapegoat with great fervor and sincerity, more often than not, what that period. So if you look into today's world, you may clearly say when Vladimir Putin in Russia condemns homosexuals, or you look into Turkey where President Erdogan is scapegoating the Kurds, we as non-Russians and non-Turkish, we may easily detect that this is just like a scapegoating procedure. I think I have some more for you, but I guess we are running out of time, so I'm quite excited about your questions. This encounters of today, when we look into, as a last note, what I have been telling you has been in the past. So if we frequently ask, what are we going to do about it? And my only hope would be that in a time where you have migration, again, as a global phenomenon, you may find means to overcome this old rhetoric of us versus them, which may be a very difficult and complicated task, as I laid out to you. We have been doing this as human species for quite some few thousand years, so maybe that's something that you guys at this center and in your studies can think about and make as a new generation of influencers and people in charge may come up with. Thank you.